All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive headache that literally every product team wrestles with, de-risking your product builds. We're going to explore a really structured, highly effective approach called precision discovery, which completely relies on mastering the art of assumption mapping. It's all about making sure the time, sweat, and money you pour into a project actually turns into a success.
So let's start off with a pretty hard truth. The roadmap looked like a plan, but it was really a pile of bets. Just take a second and really think about that. I mean, how often do we stare at our beautifully formatted, color-coded product roadmaps and just feel this false sense of total security? We treat these timelines as guaranteed safe paths to market dominance, but in reality, without the right upfront validation, they are just a towering pile of unproven wagers.
You see, when a product flops, we usually point the finger at poor execution. We think, oh, we just built it badly, or the code was a mess, or we missed a crucial deadline. But the reality is actually far more insidious. Products usually fail because of false hidden assumptions. We assumed customers wanted it. We assumed they'd pay for it. Or, magically, we assumed they would just know how to use it without any friction.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Why good features fail and the illusion of the safe roadmap.
Look, nobody intentionally leaves company-ending bets on their roadmap. No team sets out to build a failure, right? But because we don't actively sort the safe bets from the disastrous ones early on, teams end up spending quarters, sometimes even years, building doomed features because of 3 fatal traps. 1. Customers didn't actually want it. 2. Customers wouldn't pay for it. Or 3. Customers couldn't figure out how to use it. It is literally like building a beautifully engineered, incredibly expensive bridge to nowhere.
So what's the ultimate, cost-effective cure for this universal pain point? Well, it's a discipline called assumption mapping. Basically, it forces us to pull those hidden bets out into the open before we spend a whole quarter building on top of them. It is, quite literally, the cheapest risk management a product team has at its disposal. It costs nothing but time and some radical honesty.
Now that we understand the why, let's slow down and look at the how. Section 2, name your hidden assumptions and categorizing the risks. For any new initiative you're evaluating, I want you to stop and ask the team one direct, provocative question. What has to be true for this to succeed? Just let that sink in for a moment. What has to be true? By asking this, you instantly force a shift in how you evaluate your work. You stop looking at a list of features and you start examining the incredibly fragile foundation those features are built on.
Answering that question generally unearths 4 distinct pillars of risk. First, you have desirability. Do customers actually want this and feel the problem strongly enough to change their behavior? Then there's viability. Does this actually make business sense and move our metrics? Next up is feasibility. Can we realistically build and operate this thing within our constraints? And finally, usability. Can people actually use it without us holding their hands? These 4 pillars are completely distinct from one another, and your team absolutely needs to evaluate all of them.
Now, what's really interesting here is the tragic irony in our industry. Teams completely over-index on feasibility. They'll spend all their time obsessing over whether they can build it, arguing over tech stacks and architecture like it's some sort of competitive sport. But where do products usually die? Under-tested desirability. The code might be beautiful, it deploys flawlessly, but nobody actually wants the product. That's the exact trap we are actively trying to sidestep.
So we know our assumptions, and we've categorized them, but they certainly aren't all equal. Let's move into Section 3, the assumption mapping matrix, and finding the real risks.
To figure out where your discovery efforts actually belong, you need to weigh every single assumption against 2 critical reality checks. Axis 1, how important is the assumption to the idea's survival? And Axis 2, how much evidence do you actually have? And I mean tangible evidence here, not just a strong, enthusiastic gut feeling from the executive team.
When you plot those out, you're going to find what we call the danger zone. These are the assumptions that are both load-bearing, meaning if they fail, the entire product crashes down, and they are completely unproven. These are your real risks. And this exact intersection is the only place where your focused discovery effort belongs right now.
And here is the absolute most crucial takeaway. Everything else is a distraction. If it's highly proven, don't overthink it. If it's unproven but entirely unimportant to the core value, who cares? Seriously, do not waste your valuable time and sanity validating safe or trivial bets. Keep your focus locked tightly on that danger zone.
All right, we've isolated the danger zone. Now the pacing picks up because it's time for action. Section 4, test the riskiest bets. We're aiming for the cheap kill.
We need a massive mindset shift right here. The point of your discovery phase is not to validate your brilliant idea. The point is to try to kill the idea while it's still cheap to do so. You want to design the absolute smallest experiment possible that could prove your assumption wrong. Stop looking for a pat on the back and start actively looking for the fastest possible way to break your own hypothesis.
So how do we do that? Incredibly cheaply. You might spin up a simple landing page just to gauge email signups, or run 5 targeted customer interviews to check desirability. You could even use a fake door test, where you put up a button for a feature that doesn't even exist yet, just to see if anyone actually clicks it. Or maybe try a concierge test, where you're manually doing all the work behind the scenes like the Wizard of Oz. These are incredibly actionable, rapid ways to test a load-bearing bet without writing lines of expensive code.
And when you run those fast, cheap tests, here is the ultimate reward. If the assumption survives a genuine attempt to disprove it, your confidence is earned. That is the beauty of this framework. When you actively try to destroy your own idea and it somehow survives the test, well, you aren't just operating on blind hope anymore. You have real, unshakable product confidence built on actual data.
Once we have that earned confidence, or, maybe a completely disproven bet, what's next? Section 5. Update your product roadmap, closing the loop.
Let's see how this builds into a functional day-to-day workflow. Basically, it's a continuous loop. First, your cheap experiments return results. Second, those assumptions move out of the danger zone into either validated or invalidated territory. And third, most importantly, your roadmap moves with them. Your roadmap absolutely has to evolve alongside those results. It needs to be a living, breathing reflection of what you've actually learned, not just some static document.
Practically speaking, this means making some really tough calls. A bet that just failed its riskiest test should drop in priority immediately. No matter how exciting it felt to the team during the brainstorming phase, you just have to overcome that emotional attachment to flashy ideas. If the desirability isn't there, or the viability is broken, you have to drop it. Your roadmap must dynamically react to bad news just as quickly as it celebrates the good news.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge, something you can take directly into your very next planning session. Before your next big build, look at your team and ask, what is the one assumption that, if wrong, sinks this entire bet? And what is the fastest, cheapest way to find out? Write that down, because if you make this question a habit, you won't just be building features. You'll be building products that actually survive contact with the real world. Thanks for tuning in, and go test those assumptions.